We are off. There we go.
Okay, I think we're good to go. So as I mentioned, I'm Dr. Tanya Hodges, and I manage the University of Arizona Yuma programs. And our programs in Yuma are very workforce driven. In other words, every job or every position or program that we have is based on what the industry is asking from us. So again, we'll do the little talk and then we'll have time to answer questions. So as you're working with students and you're trying to decide, okay, what do they want to be? How is it, what am I going to drive them into? How do I know that it's the right thing? We really have to come up from this big 10,000 or 100,000 foot view, right, of the world. And there's so many options and so many opportunities. And how is that, how are you going to be able to touch that one student that's going to be doing that one type of work that you're asking them or you're kind of helping them find themselves to? So I always like to start with that big view. And this is important because the world, as you know, the population is changing, technology is changing, everything is changing really fast. So just to kind of give you a quick overview, the world population today is pushing 8 billion people. When I was born, which I like to think not so long ago, there was only 3.5 billion people. So the world's population just in my lifetime has more than doubled. Think about that. And think about then in our students, what's going to be happening in our students' lifetime as it relates to population. And it usually is population that's driving the industries and economic development, right? It's a need, it's somebody needing something that's then creating something new as change happens. So that's important from a teacher's perspective. So what is happening in the world of work? Currently, there's a shortfall of 1.8 billion jobs. That means that there are jobs becoming unfilled because we don't have people that have the skill set, the training, and the education to fill those jobs. At the same time, 2 billion jobs are projected to disappear. In other words, we might need them now, but we're not going to be needing them in the future. And I always like to compare it to the typewriters. Some of you might not have ever seen a typewriter, but when we went to college, we didn't have computers, right? We had to type. Now, there was actually degrees back in the day to become a typewriter engineer. Well, how many typewriter engineers does this world need today? Why is that important to you? Because as instructors and teachers, we want to make sure we're guiding students into pathways that are not going to disappear, right? They're going to be the up and coming pathways for our students. So let's use an example. The automobile going driverless. Just that one little example, the automobile going driverless is going to take away all these jobs below it. Taxi drivers, limo drivers, bus drivers, truck drivers, gas stations, parking lots, traffic cops. Fewer doctors and nurses will be needed because less crashes, right? People are not going to be getting in accidents. Pizza and other delivery food drivers, mail drivers, FedEx and UPS delivery jobs. Lots of jobs are going to disappear just by introducing one new technology. But at the same time, that one new technology is going to create new jobs. Delivery dispatchers, traffic monitoring systems will all be automated and managed. Traffic automatic designers, architects, engineers, ride experience people, emergency crews. So as one new technology comes in, it might take some jobs out while introducing new jobs to the workforce. So there's multiple jobs that are actually on the list that are forecasted to disappear over the next 20 years. Library technicians, clerks, telemarketers, restaurant cooks, cashiers, dental technicians, machine setters, cashiers, real estate brokers. And as you can see, the list goes on. And these are just a few of the jobs that are projected to disappear in the next 20 years. There's also some areas though that we know are going to remain safe. In other words, automation cannot take over some skill set. And those are jobs that include fine motor skill manipulation, creative intelligence, and social intelligence. Robots can do a whole lot of things, but they can't think and operate like the human mind. The human mind and our fine motor skills are something that at this point, thank goodness, computers cannot completely take over. So those are some of the things that you're thinking about as teachers and as us as faculty teachers as well, professors, when you guys are and we are creating that workforce pipeline. It is up to us to help guide the students and look into our crystal ball, that using all the technology that we have available to us today, to try to think about what are the best career areas that we can guide our students into. And we have to be thinking all the time, not what's good today, but what's going to be happening in the lifetime of our student. Is it going to be something that looks a little futuristic, like these comic books? Maybe. But no matter what it looks like, you as instructors and teachers are the true economic drivers of the future, because you are educating that pipeline. And I want you to give yourself credit for doing that. A lot of the times as instructors, we don't really think about ourselves as the economic future drivers. And it is our job then to fill the pipeline with that skilled workforce so that we don't have that gap of students that are young people are not able to apply because they don't have the skill set necessary. So these are some of the projected areas of global growth that if you're looking into the next 20, 30, 40 years. So we've got the green and sustainable energy area. We've got personal care, health problems, physicians, things like that. Online and for-profit education services, social network games, mobile apps, 3D printing, food production and food science, just to name a few. And you can go onto that website. Again, I'll share this information so you can see what some of those areas of projected growth look like. So if you go back in 1961, which again was not that long ago, this is what the future of technology looked like, right? And these were the scientists. This is not what science looks like today. Science is very different. It is in the field, it is applied, and it is hands-on. And I want you to remember, a lot of the times when we're speaking with science and we start talking about field scientists and lab scientists, our students have this tendency to think that we're going to be dressed in white coats and we're going to all have beakers. And some of them might, but the majority of them won't. That's not what technology looks like today. This is what technology looks like today as it relates to health and human technology. It is going to be understanding genes. It's going to be building new organs out of cloning material. In agriculture, it's going to look like ag systems that we're growing plants and crops and buildings and skyscrapers, and maybe even in the areas of metropolitan areas. It's going to be growing possibly in areas that we've never grown, like on the moon, right? Or in the North Poles or in the South Poles. It's going to be controlled environments that are going to be very highly technical. And the students are going to need to understand, and those working in those new fields of the future, of how the technology works. There's a lot of choices that look very different and will continue to look different. So what career options do students have, and what education do they need? And that's the question that as instructors we ask, and as parents they're going to be asking you, and as students they're going to be asking you. So how do we help our students identify regional growth areas? In particularly manufacturing, education and training, business services, health and community services, transportation, warehousing, tourism, agriculture, advanced manufacturing and engineering, technology, and data science. I'd like to use, and I'm sure most of you have heard about these 16 career clusters in these areas. And if you look at the career clusters, there's a lot of activity and information for you to be able to go through and really start thinking about those career clusters as a way for you to drive students into those areas of high demand, high need. Another thing that's very important for the future is this idea of math and science. That was fast. Math and science are cool. And for some reason, we have many students that think that math and science are not cool and that they don't need to. But the jobs of the future, the technology of the future is going to require math and science. So we have to continually support our students and encourage them to continue taking those courses. So many choices, right? So many choices. Engineering. What is engineering? Engineering is a rigorous and systematic application of mathematics and science to solve practical problems. What do engineers do? They do a lot of things. And a lot of the times we think of engineers only as those that build bridges and work on roads. But there's engineers that do much more than that, from research, testing, design, analysis, technical support, maintenance, consulting, sales. And a lot of times we like to lump engineering into like a category of one job, but realistically, engineers are 13 to 20 different professions that you can have as an engineer. As you can see, there's all kinds of engineers, from bioengineering, chemical engineering, systems engineering. There also seems to be a gap in understanding what do students have to do to become an engineer? And as part of being instructors and teachers and those that guide our students, it's important that we understand what that process looks like. So to become an engineer, you have to go to high school. You need to go to college. You have to enroll in engineering and foundation classes. You have to get admitted into upper division coursework. You have to finish undergraduate courses and complete senior design. You have to then take the fundamentals of engineering exam after you finish. Then you have to register, work in the field, earn a master's degree, and pass the PE. Now, there are some stop points at certain places, like right after you get your bachelor's degree. But if you're going to really work as a full-fledged engineer, these are all the steps. And sometimes all those steps look a little bit overwhelming, right? But again, there's lots of jobs and lots of opportunity if we can continue to guide our students into these different careers. Another work option is the computer data areas. Computer science, informatics, cyber, networking. And within those, there's all kinds, again, professions, jobs that students can do. And students we like to think, oh, I'm going into computer. Well, there again are hundreds of jobs, depending again on the student's education, experience, and background that can lead into technology positions. Agriculture is another one. There's over 22,000 jobs that go unfilled every year in agriculture. Right now, currently in agriculture, there's 100% job placement in the state of Arizona. Students that want to go into agriculture are working into an ag business, ag technology, ag engineering, any of those professions, there's 100% job placement. If they're skilled, right? If they have that certificate or if they have that education that they need. And why is that? Because we're having to feed the world. Remember that population that's going up? We're eating, we're wearing clothes, we're building houses. All of those things are related to the production of food or food products. All kinds of different job opportunities from ag business, education, animal science, biotechnology, environmental science, food safety, plant science, and the list goes on and on. But the areas of study are just one small piece as professional, or as teachers that you need to be helping your students through. So it's not just, what is it you want to be, but it's looking at the skill gap that goes along with it. And it's kind of interesting. I like to show this slide. So let's look at it. The blue is the employer's perception of the skill gap. The turquoise are the alumni perception of skilled gaps. And the green are current students' perception of skill gaps. And the pink is the faculty perception or the teacher's perception of skill gap. And I think this is very interesting because everyone has their own perception of what the skill gap is, ranging from understanding the role in the workplace, recognizing and dealing constructively with conflict, accepting criticism, listening, communicating, the effect of decisions, and you can read all the rest of them. But the point of this is that really everyone has their own opinion as to what the skill gap is. But there is one area that pretty much everyone agrees on, and that is recognizing and dealing constructively with conflict. So part of our job as teachers is not only introducing, the skill itself, but then helping students to be able to negotiate and share ideas and dealing with constructive criticism and how we can have those conversations of agreeing to disagree and how do we become team members? How do we communicate? There are many different ways that we can build this employability skill into our students, whether it's through work experience itself, student internships, shadowing, career organizations, student organizations, volunteering, getting some opportunity to do some hands-on research, traveling and see the world, going to symposiums and conventions, working in sports. Students that are in sports are learning that skill set. So these are all different ways that students can get hands-on experience to build employability skills. They teach things like conflict, persistence, change, and ambiguity. And these are all important skill sets that our students, no matter what they choose and what career area they go into, need to have in order to be successful in the workplace. The work skills for the future look much more than just the career area like engineering or ag or computer. It's about sense making, social intelligence, adaptive thinking, cross-culture competency, being able to work together, understanding how other people think and feel, computational thinking, and new media literacy. So again, it's up to us as professors and teachers to be able to teach these to our students using experiential learning, encouraging our students to go to summer camps, summer internships, shadow when they can. Back in the day, there were mentors, there were shadowing opportunities. You can go to work with your mom or dad or your uncle. Nowadays, there's not that opportunity for our students. So we're trying to all create opportunities for our students to see what the work looks like. What does that job look like? We need to be looking at skill-based competition using our youth programs like FFA and VICA and FBLA and any of the others to give our students a chance to compete. They get to test their skills and they get to know what it feels like to win and to lose, because that's all part of it as well, right? They also active listening, communication. If you can include in your classes where students have to put together not only a report, but stand up and give a presentation. They have to do public speaking. Those on the other side of it need to be doing that active listening. What did the speaker just say? And then role playing, include into your classroom and learning environment scenarios and mock interviews or mock phone calls or mock situations. That's, again, a great way to teach those employability skills to your students. So really it's a balance. It's a cross balance of a little bit of all of it. How do you think? Can you do problem formation, research, interpretation? What do I know? Learning the content, that knowledge, that skill set, and then being able, am I motivated? Can I manage my time? Do I have the energy and learning? Have I developed learning strategies? Act. Am I willing to act like a student? Am I going to act like a learner? How does a learner, do I have good study habits? Do I ask questions? Am I not afraid to interact with others? And then go. Do I understand the process? Do I understand what the next step is after high school? And again, we believe totally in stackable credentials. We understand that for some students, it's the certificate that leads to the next level so they can support themselves and get their foot in the door, and then that leads to the next level. But all students need to understand where their end goal is and the steps that they need to go through to get there. And not just the steps, but if there's any courses they need to take, right? Do I need to be studying math? Do I need to be taking extra science classes? They need to be looking at that now so that they understand where they ultimately want to go. And then they need to be looking at cost, and not cost to scare them, but cost for planning, including ways to offset the cost, including scholarship opportunities and grants. Some career areas pay for students to go to college or get their certificates in certain areas. So the students need to be thinking about that. So again, as instructors, we need to be looking at all 4 of these different areas. The benefits of experiential learning is incredible. I can't even, we all teach theory, but the more we can get the hands-on, it goes into that lasting, deep lasting part of their brain where it all starts making sense. The theory and the action come together to make sense. I wanted to share with you, there's a couple experiential learning activities that we do. One of them is Summer Ag Discovery Camp. This is partnered with us through the USDA, US Department of Agriculture. This camp is free to any of the students that get selected to go. It is a 2-week residential camp. Students need to be either just finishing their rising freshmen, so finishing their 8th grade year, all the way through high school. They cannot be 18, so they have to be a little bit under 18. They live in the dorm during this whole 2-week period. They'll do 1 week in Yuma, they'll do 1 week in Tucson on the main campus, and we go and do all kinds of fun activities that explore all different careers from ag business, plant science, animal science, food safety, leadership, entomology. It really gives students a very broad overview, while at the same time, we bring students from all over the country, not just Arizona. Usually it's half from Arizona and then half from other places. So our students get to look at diversity and look at how other people think and talk. And it's so wonderful for our students to be exposed to all the different personalities. And it's great for everybody to also be exposed to our Arizona students. Another summer camp is Safer Food Cats. This is a 12-day summer experience. There is a slight fee, but there are scholarships, and so far all of our students that have from our region that have ever applied have been scholarshiped. They learn about food safety, microbiology, the plant-animal-human interaction of diseases and pathogens and how they're spread. And again, it's a wonderful hands-on. Students are in the lab, they're doing things. Another wonderful summer camp for 5th grades through 9th grade is the technology camps. These have been going on, again, they're residential, their students live in the dorms, and they're building all kinds of fun programs and apps and doing all kinds of interactive things. And then the last one I want to highlight is the Summer Engineering Academy. I know with COVID this last summer has been pretty quiet, but a lot of us are trying to take our camps to a digital type of style for this coming summer. So keep your eyes open for that as well. This summer camp is for high school students, it's Summer Engineering Academy, and students get to choose their area of study. So they can either go and study and do the broad engineering camp, or they can pick, maybe they want to pick mechanical engineering or civil engineering or systems engineering, and then they can focus depending on their area. Sometimes we'll have some students do the general one the first year as an incoming freshman, and then they'll choose later on to do a more specific camp as they figure out what they want to be. So really it's a little bit of all of this, right? It's extra support that helps our students be successful. It's career advising and career counseling along the way. It's shadowing, getting our students out if we can to, or bringing into our classroom. And now with Zoom, it's easy to bring in guest speakers, bringing adult industry professionals into our classroom so that they can be mentors. Bringing university and college and professors into your classroom so they can talk a little bit more about the pathways, and really decreasing barriers to our students to help them achieve their goal. At the end of the day, we all know that they have to go and get something after high school. They need to have some kind of certificate above the high school diploma if they're going to be able to get the job that they need to support their families. So at this time, I kind of went through that pretty quickly, but it's just about time. I'm going to turn it over to our panel. I'm going to stop screen sharing. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Sam Pfeffers, Dr. Diana Saldana, and Dr. Balishka Barianis. And they're going to take it from here and introduce themselves, and then we're going to open it up to some panel discussions after that. The floor is yours.
Dr. Pfeffers, do you want to start since you were the first one called?
Okay. Good afternoon. As Tanya said, my name is Sam Pfeffers, and I am the lead engineering professor here with University of Arizona, Yuma. And we offer 3 engineering majors, all 4 years in Yuma: systems engineering, industrial engineering, and engineering management. We offer all 4 years of engineering degree here in Yuma since 2015. Of course, when we started, our first students were only juniors, so we didn't produce graduate until 2017. In that time, we have produced a total of 27 graduates, which one went directly to graduate school, and the others have all gone to work.
Dr. Pfeffers, I'm so sorry. I don't think we can hear you.
Well, I don't show as muted.
No, I think it's the connection. So maybe let's try to see if it gets better. Do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine. I will defer to you and Dr. Saldan, and I will check the chat for questions and do what I can to answer questions there.
Okay. All right. Well, that's too bad, but maybe it gets better. Hi, everyone. My name is Baleshka Brenes, and I'm Director of ABEC Programs. As Tanya mentioned, here at U of A Yuma, we offered different degrees in the different areas that have been identified to serve the region. So in the agriculture pillar, as we call it, we have food safety, ag systems management, sustainable plant systems, and we also offer animal science, but students have to finish it up at main campus. But we definitely think that, as Dr. Hodges was mentioning, you know, careers in agriculture is just, there's so many opportunities out there that there's every year 22,000 jobs go unfilled. So, I mean, we don't have enough qualified individuals to take those jobs. So we have like a big list of internship opportunities that sometimes we can't fill them all. So definitely there's opportunity for placement after graduation, and they're working in something that is contributing to feeding the world, or, you know, making the world better. So I always tell students, you know, agriculture is not just working in the fields. There's so many options that you can't even imagine. You have agribusiness, ag education, animal science, biotechnology, you know, working with the environment, food science, and then obviously we have more of the plant science and agronomy. So it's about awareness and letting them know what are the different opportunities. I always say that there's a place for everyone in agriculture. Myself, my background is in ag education and communications. I'm originally from Nicaragua, and I did my bachelor's in environmental sciences. And then I did my master's in ag ed and my PhD as well. So, you know, I do think the other important thing that I saw Dr. Hodges mention is what are the employers looking for in our students? And I think it's never too early to start building those skills, especially those soft skills, because sometimes we take those for granted. And now that I see, you know, our students interviewing for different things or just networking, you know, sometimes just knowing what to say, how to talk, how to present yourself, the nonverbal communication, it makes a huge difference. I know many of you probably are in different, like maybe interview positions where you're in a committee, and really like the communication piece is really, really important. So I think there's many opportunities out there. We need people working in agriculture because we need to feed this growing population. We need to come up with new ideas, innovative, creative people to find solutions to those problems that don't even exist yet. So, and those that we are facing today. So that's a little bit about me and working in agriculture. Dr. Saldana, do you want to talk a little bit?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Valeshka. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Diana Saldaña Jimenez, and I'm the lead professor in the technology pillar, which it means that I oversee the programs of computer science, cyber operations, and applied computing, or informatics as well. So this particular pillar in my area, I found very interesting because my programs, they're kind of different, but similar at the same time. And I found really interesting as well because these careers can combine with agriculture, with engineering, and with the other careers in U of A Yuma. My students, for example, have been doing internships, have started internships, and also they're building some features like a mobile app for U of A Yuma. And also we try to engage with high schools and middle schools doing some events like the Raspberry Jam or the robotics club competition and so on. So I always encourage them. I've always encouraged my students to pursue and to mentor other students, like for younger kids, to pursue some STEM careers that I always found very fascinating. My background, my bachelor degree, for example, is computer engineering, and I have then my master and doctorate is more for software development and computer science. So I always find very fascinating those areas. So if you're interested about how to engage your students into STEM careers or computer science, let me know. Thank you so much.
I think there were a couple of questions there. What are you doing to market those programs and available scholarships? So I apologize if I missed, if maybe Dr. Hodges already mentioned or was planning to mention about a recent grant that we were awarded. And what we're trying to do is to work, developing that pipeline from middle school to, college level, so that they know what awareness, again, what opportunities are there. But the main project that we are working on is targeting self-efficacy. So Dr. Hodges, that's her dissertation, and I'll let her talk a little bit more about that, the importance of self-efficacy.
Hello, I think I'm unmuted. So one of the things that we have found, I found in my research, was that we think that if we close the awareness gaps and the opportunity gaps for our students, that we are going to then increase awareness, right? We're going to increase awareness and opportunities. But it doesn't happen like that as much. And it's kind of strange. It's more like we increase awareness about knowledge, right? We bring knowledge to the student. We're increasing their knowledge base, and we're giving them more opportunities through, being in clubs and hands-on activities and all that. But really what that does is it increases how the student sees themselves. So it increases their self-efficacy. And that was something that's kind of interesting. So the more we can expose our students to education, opportunity, what's out there, mentors, working with other people, the more it changes how the students see themselves. Okay, so something interesting. I think it's interesting. Students will tell you when they're young, they'll say, oh yeah, it's important that I go and get a certificate, or it's important I go to college, or it's important I do these things, right? They'll say that. It's important that when you rate it. But when you ask them later, like we're saying closer to their senior year in high school, or even into their freshman year in college, and then you say, well, now is it important? And they'll say, well, it's important to everybody else, but my circumstance is different. So they make an exception for themselves, right? It's good for everyone to go get the certificate or go get trained or go become an active skilled labor. But when it comes to me, oh, I've got a different, you know, it doesn't work like that for me. It's everyone else. So we've got to then figure out how do we change that mindset that some students have that's preventing them from finishing that certificate or finishing that associate's degree or finishing that bachelor's degree so that they become skilled. And a lot of the times, it's not because they don't have access to money. It's not because they don't have access to getting to the community college or getting to the place to get their skill. It has to do with how they see themselves. Do I see myself as a manager in this position? Do I see myself building apps, working in technology? Can I see myself, right, leading a team? And believe it or not, it's how the student sees himself that limits where they go. Their limitations might not be any more than what they've created themselves. So again, as teachers, so important to cheer, have them dress accordingly, right? Not all the time, but for special occasions. Have them go through the motions as a manager or as a leader, do those public speaking where they have to stand up and do their proposals and all those things that help them then see themselves. I see that Sam posted something. Sam, did you want to try to speak again? I'm not sure if you want to try giving it a second shot.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I saw there was a question in the chat about internships for adults. I'll take that to mean post-secondary learners. At least in engineering, the field that I can speak to, some problems are not that bad to have. Here in Yuma and in the immediately adjacent region, we have more engineering internships than I have engineering students to fill them. Every year, some of those internships are filled by students from elsewhere in Arizona, outside Arizona, and some go unfilled. Sometimes there is a modest challenge in essentially doing the mating dance of getting the right student paired with the right internship. But just gross numbers is not the limiting factor, at least for.
I also wanted to add regarding, you know, they were mentioning that there's opportunities for middle school and high school, but what about for those adults who got a late start? And well, when I read that, I'm like, we're all about working with non-traditional students, because the population we serve are those students at the community college who transfer after they're completed their first 2 years, and then they come with us to finish their bachelor's degree. So also part of our efforts include doing actually a camp. We call it more like an academy or a summer academy with college students. So it was really interesting to see how even college students struggle a little bit more than high school students during the camps. We had some students that we asked them to do a video at the end, and a lot of them were like really struggling with their self-efficacy and, you know, completing, and they were kind of complaining even more than high school students. So we could see that pushing them to their limits, you know, it was a good, because they were proud of everything they accomplished, but it requires a little bit more of, you know, holding their hands at the same time. So we do also a mentorship program after that institute for 10 months, where we match students to an industry professional. So they meet with them, review their resume, they, you know, are able to have monthly meetings and go grab a coffee before COVID, or, you know, have shadowing opportunities. So all of that really, really makes a difference. And we've seen just with one cohort of students that we had that opportunity to do that, you know, a big growth and potential, and really for them to complete their bachelor's degree, because that's another thing that we struggle, that maybe they start, but we want them to complete and get out there and be part of that. You know, in Yuma, our region is 14% of the population who have a bachelor's degree.
Right, and even as a whole, right, Arizona as in general, we're all trying to get students to be completers, and the completer is usually something after high school diploma. So whether it's a certificate, an associate's, a bachelor's, those stackable credentials that we talk about that are so important so that people can start entering the workforce and supporting themselves and working, but continue on with their education if they want to. Again, giving them access to that. Baby steps. We eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I think there's a false sense that we give to high school students that makes it sound like they're going to eat the elephant in one day and it's going to be really easy. And it's not. Eating the elephant is a very patient. You got to be able to have resiliency, right? You're going to have your days that it's just going to be, you're going to want to quit. And that's one of the things that, again, that we're asking all of our instructors and all of our educators out there to continue to remind students that, you know, anything about education is hard. School is school. It's going to be school, no matter if you're working on a certificate program or associates or a bachelor's degree. It's still school. And just like school took dedication in high school and middle school, you're going to have to do it, and you're going to have to dedicate time to it. And we don't want to have people quitting just because things get tough. And I think that's, you know, we're going to have to continue to support students all the way through so they understand that's just normal, right? All of you went through some kind of education or you wouldn't be here today. And I can tell you, I can probably ask all of you, was college tough? Did you have times of tough that you wanted to quit? I know I did. So, you know, it's our story, and there's nothing wrong with telling our story to our students. Our students need to know that it wasn't easy for us. I tell my students, shoot, my freshman year in college, I had a 1.8 GPA. I almost got kicked out. It was rough. And then they go, God, Hodges, and you made it this far. I go, you can make it. You're smarter than I am. You can make it through as well. But a lot of the times we have students that show up, they quit because they have a C or a D, which makes no sense. I'm like, no, unless they throw you out, you stay in school, you finish, right? Any questions for us? I know we've been talking and we've got about 10 more minutes, I think, of our time in particular. Any questions?
Tanya, I just want to add regarding the question about the adult opportunities for coding in particular. I'm going to share a link for boot camps that the University of Arizona offers. Maybe it can help you. Right now, we're right here in my pillar. They're only offering for middle school students, high school students, but it's a good idea for start talking about adults as well. Thank you.
So the programs that you guys offer for middle schoolers, does that include transportation, like kids who are in Tucson to Yuma, or do kids have to find their own modes of transportation to locations outside of Tucson or Phoenix?
So if we have a relationship with the school, so some schools have relationships with us that we work with the school, then the school usually provides the transportation. There are some though, like Ag Discovery, that the parent has to get their student to us and then pick them up at the end. So it just depends on if we're doing a school activity, like sometimes we have just a school activity that we're doing a camp with the school, like we work with Gadsden Middle School, we'll do a camp for 160 students and they bring those students to us. So again, if you have schools that would like to partner either with us, or we can even hook you up with some other University of Arizona people that you want to have some kind of partnership, we would be willing to kind of be that middle ground.
Tanya, I think you're being a little modest here, especially for the middle school teachers that are with us. The support that comes out of the university for these middle school and the programs that you may have going, they're a great resource. Tanya has provided materials, supplies, expertise, curriculum. So I don't know if you want to talk a little more about that in addition to just your big plan programs, but there's other ways I think that the universities or even your neighbor universities can be very helpful to you for your middle school programs.
Absolutely. And I can speak for U of A, but I'm sure our other sister universities are the same way in the fact that if you ask for support, we give it to you. I mean, I just delivered pumpkin seeds down the street the other day, 50 pumpkins and I don't know how many bags of pumpkin seeds to our middle school. We're constantly delivering curriculum to them. We're helping them design their curriculum. We're helping, I took 15 big plastic fertilizer tanks. We cut them in half and we're growing fish in them and aquaponics in them with our middle schoolers. So again, we're willing to help. I know Sam has helped with engineering. Diana has done, like we said, the Raspberry Jam sessions with students in middle school. So if you'd like to have or you want help with coding and doing some fun coding activities with middle school students, we would love to help you as well. Or we can at least direct you in the right direction. If we can't, we have other people that can also support you.
When you say we, do you mean just the university in general or reaching out to you directly and then you would filter or send us to?
Yes, I can filter. So if you send me kind of what your needs or what you're thinking in general, and if we can't do it from UMA, again, U of A is all over the state, right? We have extension and outreach people all over. We have professors all over the state. So we can try to hook you up with the right people depending on the location of your school and the cost and what you're looking for. Is it a day event or are we talking, you know, a 3-week camp like Gadsden's? That's a pretty intensive camp, but it's 3 weeks. And we do a lot of teacher training for that, where we teach the teachers and then the teachers go back and run the first week of camp with the students. And then we do an intensive week. And then at the end, they go back to their teachers who help them do their final week and final projects. So even like maybe some combined activities as well. Good questions. Thank you for asking. Any other questions for us? I know we are experts in kind of our little technology areas, right? Are there other areas that you're interested in outside of the technology areas other than the life sciences and computers and engineering? What other areas are your students or you excited about?
You know, my students in particular have expressed more so recently than in the past years is animal science.
Yes. And animal sciences are all life sciences. It's fun for students because it's therapeutic as well, right? They can pet the animals, they can take care of them, they can plant their seeds and watch them grow and take care of them. So we need people in those fields that care about living things. So I'm very happy to hear that you have students that are interested in that. And we have a whole, it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's nothing fancy, but they have links to different lesson plans. So if you are looking for lesson plans in the plant, animal, living, life science type of things, email me, and then I'll be glad to share that link with you. And we're constantly updating as we find new curriculum. And some of it you might have seen before because it's not all new. Some of it is through shared entities, but at the end of the day, it's really about how do you have something that's experiential, right? That you can do stuff and not just see it, but do it and get the kids' hands dirty and in the middle of it, which is, I know it's hard to do in COVID, and that you teachers that are teaching right now through Zoom, God bless you. I know it has to be terribly hard and difficult, especially with middle schools and high schools.
Tanya, are you doing some online videos or type of classes that teachers can access to, or is that in the mail? Since we are in this new environment of so much online work right now?
Yeah, so we're not, but we definitely have discussed it. You know, how can we create some learning videos, not just for our students, but your students as well, that we can have a library that you would have access to. So Deb, we're not there yet, but we hope to be soon. We're right now just trying to keep our college students engaged, and we've just created some videos for them as well. Rachel, did you have a question?
I did. I guess it's more of a statement, and I think it's to build off of what Deb just said, but I think more and more my students are just curious about what's out there. And so you mentioned agriculture. I wouldn't even know where to begin having a conversation with students about agriculture because it's not my field. And so I think those videos or introductions where somebody just gets like a day in the life, or somebody who talks, like goes through a list of criteria, you know, and talks about each criterion, and this is how, you know, what my day looks like, or this is my salary, or this, like, whatever. I feel like more and more, and especially in this environment, that kind of option is so helpful for students, middle school all the way to, I work at the community college. And for folks who are changing careers or who are just interested in learning more, it would, yeah, I feel like I'm making the point. Thank you.
I love that. That's great. Thank you.
Rachel, may I add something? We have our social media. I posted in the chat. You can follow us on Instagram, for example. We have the first video, and I think Dr. Purpose mentioned about an interview with a graduate student from engineering, and he asked a lot of questions about the salary, what are you doing in your job. So our purpose is to have different sessions, like engineering sessions, technology, for computer science, and then for agriculture. So if you like to go on and follow us in our social media, you can find those videos.
I love the idea of an Instagram account that does that. I feel like that speaks to the population in so many important ways. So thank you.
You're welcome.
It's also a little bit of a posting board for our students. So there will be things like school will be canceled on this date. So don't be totally, we're doing more and more of getting alumni to put up their story, to do the day in a life. And we'll continue to build on that. And again, any feedback you have, feel free to please send it to us. I know Deb will share. I'm all about sharing my email, contact information. So let's make this a win-win where we can be putting out information that's going to be beneficial to you guys. And again, building the pipeline. We're a team. We can't do it alone. At the university level, we can't do it alone. At the college level, they can't do it alone. It really takes from middle school, you know, all the way through. And I always tell students, it's just as important to figure out what you don't want to do as what you do want to do. And students need to know that sometimes they're going to take a class and go, ooh, that's not at all what I thought it was. And I always tell students, good, doesn't that feel good to know that you've ruled that out? And now you can focus on the other 4,000, 10,000 choices that you have to try to figure out what it is you want to be. So encouraging our students to diversify, go out on a limb, take classes they've never taken before, do things they've never done before. And I know a lot of the times our students ask, why? Why do you want me to do that? Or why should I go to the camp? I don't want to go because it's uncomfortable, right? But it's through those uncomfortable situations that we really do figure out what we like and what we don't like. And
we have just a few more minutes, and I've seen Wayne's hand up there for a minute. So Wayne, why don't we let you have the last question here?
So I'm a chef and I'm teaching my kids food safety right now. And I want to get into nutrition. The thing is, with nutrition, I don't have a whole lot of materials and it's not exactly my background. And so I'm kind of like leaning towards like, if you guys could help me with curriculum or have like samples or have someone do like a Zoom meeting with my kids and talk to them about nutrition.
Absolutely. We can hook you up with people that can do that. And we've also found some very inexpensive pieces of like lab pieces of food where the students can start thinking about how food comes together using proteins and carbohydrates and sugars and the benefits, and then food as medicine, right? A lot of the time, new place right now everybody's going to is food as medicine. It's preventative medicine versus waiting to get the pill at the end of the day. Let's prevent disease from happening. And that's a whole new mindset as to how to use food. So Yes, I'd be glad to hook you up with the nutrition dietetics people. They're very excited and they have all kinds of great ideas.
Awesome. Thank you.
Tanya, thank you so much, and the rest of your panelists today. This was just incredible information. I know I certainly learned a lot. I'm sure all of our teachers here did. For those of you who need to go, we do want to be respectful of your time. We're just a minute or so away from 5. But if you would like to stay on for, maybe Tanya could stay a moment or two, and if you still have any questions, and we'd like to answer any questions any of you might have. Of course, all of this the presentation will be in the Dropbox, so you can go out there and take a look at it at your leisure and see some of the information again. So thank you all for joining us today. So happy you were here. Thank you, Tanya. Great job. Great information.
Thank you for inviting us.
Tanya, you're
Yes.
going to be getting emails from me. Look at all my notes.
I knew the Yuma people were probably writing fast and furious.
Hi, Heidi.
Writing as fast as I can. I'm like, oh, this is going to take me a while to decipher, but I'll be sending some emails. So amazing. Really, such great opportunities. I love that you're in Yuma with us here too. So very excited.
Any help we can give you in support, Heidi, you know that.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to ask what the Instagram handle was. If you said it, I didn't hear it.
Oh, it's AC.
Here, I'll
Wait a minute. UAC Yuma. I'm sorry.
UAZ Yuma.
Yuma.
I just put it in the chat.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions for us?
Thank you for your time and information. It was so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you for asking us. Hopefully we look forward to working with you.
Tanya, did you ever work in Tucson?
I've never worked in Tucson. I was for almost 20 years. And before I came into higher education. So I was a teacher. I taught high school and then went from high school teaching into industry and then came back into education through higher education. So teacher at heart.
Very nice. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Great job, Tanya, as usual. I'm just always inspired by the information that you share. I think the teachers really got a lot out of it today. I have to work with Robin a little bit on how I take my recordings and drop them into the Dropbox.